Oh, hello, friends, esteemed colleagues and co-workers, followers and fans alike. Good evening, good afternoon to you all. It is with great pleasure I welcome you all to today's episode. Very, very happy, abundantly glad, elated even, to have you here. Very, very other words meaning happy and elated. It is with utmost grandiose frivolity. That's not the word. Fucking shit piss. Fuck! I was killed by my own fucking lack of perspicacity. Fuck! God damn me! I was gonna open up doing a whole like, oh, I'm gonna speak posh and do the whole thing like, oh, I've decided to do away with my pretending to be a working class stiff with this charade. I'd bin the charade, as in bin it, bin, bin it, throw it into the garbage. The charade that I've been keeping up of being from a poor working class background, and I was going to be rich and pompous, but the fact that I couldn't think of certain words made me go, fucking shit it. The Confederate flag, by the way, I feel like every episode there's at least one word relevant to what I'm saying that I can't fucking think of. And in a recent episode, that word in particular was Confederate. I was trying to talk about the Confederate flag. Oh, it wasn't. It was 2 weeks ago, because I was talking about the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, which is a big pile of shit. And how they saw the Confederate flag flying on a building, and they were like, "Oh, we can't have that. We've got to get rid of it." Which is fair enough. We can't have that. Get rid of it, sure. But they used that as a really shitty, lame, fucking narrative device, quote unquote, to get them to go into the one building that happened to have people in it. And I couldn't think of the word Confederate, but and as is usually the case, mere hours after recording the episode, I was, I don't know, probably playing Fallout 76 or something, and just suddenly yelled out, sitting in my own dark, dank, shitty little grand Parkland Manor, where I live, surrounded by horses and foxes and such that I hunt for sport because I'm a cock. And then just sitting alone playing my gamey games, and suddenly yelled out, "Confederate flag!" Because I remembered the word then, and that's the word I remembered, and it was that word that I remembered. It was the Confederate flag. Where does that tune come from? Because I use that one a lot. Maybe it's just an ending tune. It's like the end. That's like tune at end of thing, isn't it? Like, and that's why we spend all day. No, it needs to be it needs to fit the tune. And that's why we masturbate. And that's why I hate myself. And that's why my penis is huge. Although I don't know why the penis is huge. It must be those Viking genes, giving me the huge, gargantuan, colossal, impossibly oversized donger that I was blessed or cursed with, depending on how you view the situation. So it's more fucking Texas Chainsaw guff today. I told you I'd get around to it at some point. And now, if you're here listening, lucky you and us and I, for we will embark upon remainder of our Texas Chainsaw journey by talking shit about the shit franchise of shit films that came after one perfectly made horror film. And it really is. It's the original's so good. Ugh. Which is funny as well because it feels like every aspect of it feels 70s because it was like 74 or something. Not 1974. It was made in the year 74. Well, I didn't even know they had cameras back then. What the fuck? It was actually made in 1974. In case you thought I was being serious, I'm just going to clarify. It was 1974, not the year .74. Someone's taking a caffeine pills. Someone feels it necessary to point out every episode they take their caffeine. I have one little energetic burst and I go, oh look, I've taken a caffeine pill. Oh look, it's meta. I'm talking about what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Which isn't really meta necessarily, but you get the idea. It's fucking shut up, suck my enormous Viking cock. Also, suck my silly little English wasted, pale, hairy, scraggly little dick, because that too. The original feels very 70s and has a very 70s vibe. The fashion, the look, the overall mise en scène of the film feels that. And in comparison, but also parallel to that, the new one feels very... Was it 2020? 2022? 2022. 2022. Feels of this time because it's shit. It feels the fashion is shit, the design choices are shit, the character choices. What am I thinking? Casting. The casting choices are shit. Every little aspect of this shitty film feels very much of the time because it's all a big piece of wank. I should do movie reviews, man. The Biggie Z. I know I have a really bad habit of never ever responding to YouTube comments, which I mean to. A lot of them I mean to reply to, especially the nice ones, because it's nice. It's nice that someone takes the time to leave a comment at all, especially when it's a nice comment. And then I go, oh, that's nice, and I forget about it. No, I don't forget about it. It's just, I have a difficult time doing things like that because I hate myself and I wish I was dead, and depression. Oh, wait, I'm depressed. I can't respond to your comment. I'm sorry. I'm so sad. But the fact of the matter is, it's usually that is the cause. So, but then I apologise that I don't always or don't ever respond to them. But I do think about the comments and I appreciate all the comments. And so Biggie Z, he leaves a lot of comments. He's one of like the best supporters I could ever ask for. So thank you, big thank you to him. I believe I've even I dedicated a whole episode to him one time, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I made that up. But he left a comment saying I should do movie reviews, and maybe he'd really enjoy seeing like movie reviews by me being big crazy you doing my movie reviews. Funny. Or maybe I do posh reviews. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to review the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, made in 2022 by whoever, put out by Netflix on Netflix for Netflix. It's a wash of CGI gore and shit casting choices and poor decision making all round, narrative devices that are senseless nonsense, plot holes around every corner. I did want to talk about one. So the old bitch shows up, who's this girl who I'm drawing right now from the original, the one that got away. She shows up as an old woman, not even the same actress. I don't know if the original actress is dead. Why would I give a shit about some fucking old woman? But a different actress, so whatever. Shows up as an old woman. She's like, I'm gonna kill the Leatherface. Shows up in town. Somehow she knows where to go, where he is. I guess it's on the news or something. I don't know. And then when she gets there, she sees a bunch of shit going down. She's like, I've got to stop this. And then she goes, she somehow knows exactly where to go, which building to go into. Leatherface was somewhere and then goes somewhere else. We don't see that he's gone back into the orphanage home that was flying the Confederate flag. But evidently, she knows he's in there. We don't. We didn't see him go back in there, but she knows he's in there. She goes into that orphanage, into his bedroom, where he's sat on the bed, doing nothing. He's literally sat on the bed, waiting for her to arrive, I guess. This is the movie. This is, as you're watching the movie, this is what's happening. Leatherface was in one place doing one thing, then suddenly he's just sat on his orphanage bed. Just because. And then the old woman walks in with a shotgun and she's like, oh, you fucking piece of shit. And then she gets all like indignant and high-minded and like, you don't even remember me, do you? Say who I am, say my name, fucking say my name. And Leatherface just like looks at her and walks out. Now, one, in the original film, she showed up to this person's house. He with his family. Oh no, it's not her, is it? Because she gets put on a hook and then like, I don't think it's her. Maybe it is her. Well, whatever. Taken into the house and they're going to eat her. She escapes. She runs off. They never see her again for 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years, 50, about 50 years. Let's say 50 years. Never sees or heard from this one random person. And, you know, they kill and eat people. That's the thing they do. They had this one person they were going to kill and eat. She ran off. Shit happens. 50 years later, there's no interaction between them in those 50 years. 50 years later, both of these people are still alive. She tracks him down, goes into the orphanage where she magically knows where he is, stands in front of him with a shotgun saying, you don't remember me, do you? Say my name. He never knew your name. Because you didn't fucking say, no, stop, my name is whatever and I live at this address and here's my social fucking security. Why would he know your name? Why would he remember you? Why would he remember you a month later? You're just some fucking girl he was going to cut open and eat, but then you ran off. Why would he fucking remember who you were? Plus, you're a fucking 80-year-old woman or 60, 70, old, not 60 because you'd have been 10, 50 years previous, wouldn't it? Well, not necessarily, because you... Oh, yeah, no, that... I have no idea what I'm talking about. So, math has never been my strong point, you know this. But it's just what... He wouldn't remember you. Of course he wouldn't remember you. But then... So, okay, that's that part of that scene. And then Leatherface looks at her and just leaves. Leaves his room and then leaves her standing there with a shotgun looking like a sad old lady with a shotgun. Why wouldn't Leatherface just fucking kill her? Kills every single other person he comes across. Hits him with a hammer, with a fucking axe, with whatever he's got to hand, chainsaw. Everybody he gets in front of, he attacks and kills in this film. He doesn't just go, nah, not you, you're okay, but this one over here, you've got shit shoes, so I'm going to fucking cut you up, you cunt. You said you were going to cancel me, I'm going to fucking cut your guts open, you fucking wanker. But this old lady, who he has no reason to remember from 50 plus years ago, stood there and he goes, no, I won't kill you, it's fine. I guess, well, we can say he didn't kill his nan, his gran or his mum or whoever the fuck it was taking care of him in this orphanage. But this old lady, maybe he saw his mum in her... there's none of that is there's no reason to believe any of that. He just leaves her and then leaves the room, leaves the house. Why wouldn't he just fucking pound her head in and kill her? And why wouldn't she just fucking shoot him in the face with a shot? You can do the whole, do you remember me? No? Okay, well, I'm going to fucking blow your head off with a shotgun that I have right now. Right, I'm in the perfect position in your bedroom, which I don't really understand why why they moved to that orphanage outside of the family home. None of that. You don't have to explain everything in a movie. The fucking crazy bald kids in Mad Max Fury Road, why do they spray their teeth silver? Don't know, doesn't matter. It's just part of their character. It works. Certain things are visual storytelling and you're given it and you accept it and it's fine. Leatherface being in an orphanage as an 80-year-old man with some woman who's his mum? Question mark? That's not like visual storytelling. That's not a narrative thing. That's just a decision that was made for some reason, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, you fucking one of those people in that scene when they're in the bedroom should have died. She should have either she should have blown his fucking leathery face off and been done with it and been like, that's it, that's the end. I'm the one who got away, ruined my life, trauma, killed my friends, whatever, family. I killed him, that's that. Or he should have gone, I don't know who the fuck you are, and I'm going to take your head off and eat it from the inside out, because that's what I do, because I'm a serial killer cannibal. But neither of those things happen, and it just doesn't make any fucking sense. So that was... My plan was to talk about the every other film that isn't that one, or the original. But, you know, I just had to... I think that's a point I wanted to make in the previous video, but neglected to because I'm stupid. And my note about I should do movie reviews. The problem with that is it's a nice idea, but there's probably like 3 movies I care about enough to really talk about. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is absolutely one of those. Definitely one of my favourite movies of all time. The Thing is probably one, which I could do like talk about the new, the remake, sequel, whatever the fuck that was, that disaster was supposed to be. In relation to the original, you know, The Thing is probably one of those. The assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, which I talk about again and again and again and again and again and again and again because it's really good. And other than that, there's like a handful of movies I could bother talking about, maybe a few zombie films, but really there's not enough films that I care enough about that I would like give the time or effort to review properly. So the idea of reviewing movies is like, you know, cool, and there's a good market for that. People watch those videos and it's a cool thing to do and you can have fun with it. But this eye should be wide as well, shouldn't I? Fucked that up. But I just don't care enough about most movies that come out to want to talk about them for that long and review them. You see how passionately I talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre and how they fucking ruined it. But they weren't the first to ruin it with the 2022 movie. Oh boy. I think I may have spoken a small amount, at least, about the second film in the franchise. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the second. While not great, is also not awful. It's goofy and silly, but it's kind of fun. It's quite a fun, silly film to watch. So I can kind of get along with it. The characters are quite good. They're good characters. They have character. They've got like motivation and whatever. For the most part, you know, not all the parts. Dennis Hopper's fucking silly character is fun, where he gets the 2 chainsaws and he's all like, I'm gonna fucking get you. And then there's a bit where like he kicks out some flimsy wooden wall and loads of like guts and intestines spill out, and it's like they look like fresh intestines and it's all wet blood, but like, were they being stored there? And if so, if they're stored there for like more than a day, they're not going to be wet and shiny. They're going to be all like dry and ganky and horrible. But they slop out like wet, you know, fresh intestines and shit. So that doesn't make sense. There's a lot of shit that doesn't make sense in those. And again, you know, those sorts of things are things that aren't mistakes that are made in the original. You know, everything in the original sort of has a purpose for being as it is in the original. But it's silly fun, and I can get along with it. Number 3, the third film, as far as I remember, is the one with Viggo Mortensen in it, which is just kind of shit. It's just not great. It's not good. I don't find it entertaining. I don't find it horrific or scary. It's just kind of like, oh, it's just not very good. And that's just the film as a whole. And then when you break it down, there's like Leatherface is part of a different killer cannibal family with all different characters, a different mum. He's got a daughter and that's a thing. I'm not 100% sure on all of this, but again, I watched all 9 films one after the other from start to finish in one sitting. So I may mix up the order of the films. I don't, past the third one, I don't know the order of the films. I may confuse one part of a film with another part of another, because, you know, it's whatever. I've never seen the Kill Bill films separately. I've only ever watched Kill Bill 1 and straight away watched Kill Bill 2. So to me, it's one big film. So I don't know which parts are in which film. I have a vague idea of some of the parts, but on the whole, I don't know what happened in Kill Bill 1 that didn't happen in Kill Bill 2 and vice versa. And it's a similar case with the Texas Chainsaw franchise post the third film, disallowing, I guess, for the final remake, or the latest remake. It probably won't be the final one. I'm sure they'll churn out some other garbage at some point in the future. Anyway, that's... So he's got a daughter. I'm 75% sure it's his daughter. It's, you know, in terms of the lore of the film, it's supposed to be his daughter. And I don't know, because, you know, he's like a learning disabled, big, silly guy. I can't imagine he has sex a lot. Maybe it's a product of the R word. But again, I can't see Leatherface being the type for that. It doesn't suit his character, his horror character, to go around raping as well as killing and eating. He seems like he gets the people, he puts them on meat hooks and he chops them up and then eats them as part of the family that eats people. To have him then like committing, you know, sexual atrocities on these people, it feels out of character for what it is. So I don't know how he got a daughter, but evidently he's got a fucking daughter for some reason, which is, it's never in the daughter in the film is not integral to the film at all. It's another one of those things, you can take that out, the film will run just as turdily as it did previous. And then I think it's supposed to be like Leatherface's birthday or something, and they give him a gift, and the gift is this bright, shiny, gold-plated chainsaw with like metal flames on parts of it, and it's got some shit. I don't think it has, but in my head, it's got like the word family engraved on the blade of the chainsaw. I don't think that is the case. I've got the old laptop open. Let me have a goog. We'll give a goog. Texas Chainsaw 3 chainsaw. Gold chain saw. Google image that. It does have family on it. It says the saw is family. I thought I made that up in my head. Oh, it's not going to have the word family on it. That's too fucking shit. But yeah, it's got like, it's all gold and chrome, and it's got curved, sharp bits, and on the blade, it's got engraved, like it's got it looks like this, and in like Gothic text it says, like, you know, Gothic text that looks like this. It says the saw is family, and then another one of those on the chainsaw blade, and it's just like, really, you're gonna put that in your fucking... And bear in mind, the original, it's dirty and dusty and sweaty, and there's flies and sand and like shit everywhere, bones and feathers and gunk, and dried up old, half dead old man that can't even hold a hammer to hit a girl in the head over a metal bucket. And then in this one, they give him a gold and chrome plated chainsaw with a engraved message saying the saw is family. What kind of garbage shit is that? Who came up with that during production? Someone wrote that, and then someone made the chainsaw, or a team of people, or whatever. And they said, let's put that in the film, and that'll be good in the film. And it's not shit and garbage and a pile of fucking arse wank, and I hate it. Number 3, not good. Now, after this, I don't know which film's which, so I will talk about parts of some of the films out of order, because I don't know what's what. After these messages. Speaking of living in a city full of sin, which we weren't, but here's Sin City. I've been keeping this on the back burner for like a rainy day. I need to stop doing this. I've been saying relatively a lot lately, so if you hear me say relative, count how many times I say relatively in this video and you'll win nothing. Oh, let me get a sip of Pepsi. As my beverage of the week this week, a couple of cans of Pepsi Max, because they're cheap, easy to get hold of, whatever. Yeah, I've been keeping this for when I have nothing else to show as an art book. I figured, Sin City, it's a classic. It's when Frank Miller was good, which I've said before and I'll say again, not necessarily all, but I feel a lot, if not most, most artists do hit a point of prime where they do have an amount of time wherein they're creating their best work, and then they still work and create work after that, but they never seem to quite reach that point. Sometimes it's age that gets them, sometimes it might be illness, disease, whatever, sometimes it might be their own fucking pride in themselves. They get ahead of themselves, get big-headed, they think they can just take it easy and do whatever, and people will buy it because of the name they've got. Maybe it's a money issue. But regardless, there is a point. And I'm sure if it hasn't already happened with me, it will happen with me. I fully expect it to happen. I feel like it happens every week. I feel like I've done all my best stuff in the past. Everything ahead of me is shit. Because I'm as good as every other artist out there. And Frank Miller is certainly... There is a markable point somewhere where you can say, here is where his best work stopped being produced. Everything after that is a big old meh, if not shit. Sin City is, I mean, I'm not remotely breaking new ground by saying this. This is not a hot take. It's possibly the coldest take on the planet, but in terms of the world of comic book art, I suppose. To say Sin City is one of Frank Miller's finest works. It's when he was absolutely at his best as an artist, is Sin City. This is the only book of Sin City I have, because I don't really care about like the story of Sin City. I just pick up the book to be like, oh hey, I'll look through this because I'm only going to look at the artwork anyway. Also, as far as like movies adapted from comic books go, Sin City, the original, not perfect, not amazing, but pretty fucking good, especially in terms of like the stylistic choice of keeping as close to like the black and white aesthetic of Frank Miller's original comic. This is pretty fucking good. I could watch that again and be like, that's fucking yeah. I've not seen the other one they made because I don't care. But there's a lot you can learn from looking at the artwork, even just this silhouetted character with the, I don't know. I won't really... I've got skin coming off my lip. That's healthy. Well, I guess skin comes off of everywhere all the time, always, doesn't it? So, sorry, I'm just trying to pull off this fucking 8-foot-long strip of skin that's hanging off my lip. Excuse me while I do that. I'm a professional broadcaster. Well, I'm literally not, so get fucked. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and point out every, like, oh, this, the way he... And then, the bricks, the way he, like... fades in the bricks to the... Doing a fade in raw black and white without, like, intricate hatching can be really, really difficult. That's a really fucking solid way of doing it. And then contrast, like, the boldness of these lines with the fineness of these broken glass lines. That's really, really cool. And then drawing the bricks all the way down, and this is all white with black outlines, and then the solid black figure falling through the centre. That's really good too. I like a lot of the body shapes and like dynamic poses he uses in this. That's one of them. That's really, really good. The momentum is really good from the tail of his coat. Sorry, I was burping already, and now I've got fucking gas in me from that Pepsi. I'm all over the place. Jesus Christ. Yeah, the momentum and how doesn't have his hands firmly planted on the hood of the car, which I probably would do if I was going to do that. However, he's gone better than having his fingertips just launching him, so he's just coming off as he's about to crash through the window. And the shape, this curve here, is really, really good. The shape of the curve of his body, the momentum, it's really, 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 really good. And then drawing all these fucking, squares of glass. Because, police cars, they have like the square wire mesh glass windows. So that's noted. That's quite good. Shit like this is really good. And for the most part, I think this is all done in black ink on white paper. So even where there's white bits like this, he's drawing around it. And it's all the black bits that are actually drawn. Because it would be really easy, well, not necessarily easy, but, maybe sometimes easier to use like white ink, white paint, whatever, for some of this stuff. Or draw it in black and then invert it. That's what I'd do, I think, in an instance like this. I'd draw all this in black like a silhouette and then invert it and just be like, that's that. But yeah, I think all the black is actual ink. I think. I say this with no actual definitive knowledge, but I think in terms of looking at it visually, it looks like the black lines are the ink and the white is just space left by not inking the ink. Really solid shape there. And the creases in the coat are really good. They're probably not hugely accurate too. And I think that's a lot in the wrinkles in his clothes anyway. And I probably unconsciously take a lot of like the wrinkles in his clothes that I put in my paintings. There's certainly instances of it later on where it's like you just do like lines and folds, like heavy folds, and it works. You get the impression of material rather than photo referencing the exact creases of certain materials. That's insane. He's climbing up the side of a building somehow. And I think they show it, here, where he's like holding on to the gaps in between the bricks and pulling himself up somehow, which is pretty insane. But that's really fucking cool. No holding lines, no outlines on the buildings, just these solid shapes, but drawn in such a way that it gives you almost perfect perspective of where he is, where he's at. Him sinking into the shadows is really cool in the alleyway while the security guy or cop or whatever walks past. Silhouette's always good, especially in a comic like this, to throw in silhouettes every now and again. It's almost like, not necessarily, maybe like mandatory to have silhouettes, black and white silhouettes here and there as well. These body shapes are really cool. The light coming through the blinds, those lines. I've drawn a few photos like that, a few nude photos with like shadows of blinds and things across the body, and it can be really tricky. It's a really good way of showing the contours of the body, but it can be really tricky to get it right and really easy to fuck things up. This is really nice, sort of like mostly silhouette. And so is this. And obviously Marv with all the bandages or band-aids or whatever, plasters as we call them over here, all over him. That's a classic look and a really, really cool way of drawing the shit. It looks so cool to have the silhouette, but then these band-aids all showing up. Near genius for that to be, in your comic. That's really, really smart. A really good visual. Amazing pages. Like, this is an amazing page in terms of comic book. Like, silhouette, I don't know, building, skylight, whatever. That's cool. This would work amazing as like a print or a poster. Like, that's really, really cool. And it's almost like a comic book page, but then it's all... and that's really, really good. Very few outlines. Lots of just harsh, shadowy shapes. Really good pose. Really dynamic. The coat adds a lot to it. Like without the coat, it's like a cool body pose, but then with the coat, the momentum, the direction of the fall is really, really shown. Silhouettes. That's a tricky one where he's running up the stairs. Drawing bodies from above that without making them look silly is very difficult. More good poses. I could steal that for Gun Viking easily. It's a solid, like, fucking come and get it kind of pose. Great silhouette work. Great silhouette work with, like, them being in front of the window, and then it, like, they get, you know, the camera pulls out further away, further away. Really, really cool. Good. Good stuff. Very good indeed. Yeah, bits like this, which is, I guess, not quite similar, but kind of similar to, like, when I paint clothing, I just do, like, creases. I might have... Do I have an example of my X-Men paintings here? But there's a load of shit on top of it, so I've got to... Give me 8 minutes. Do I use the term 8? 8 is my go-to number. If I say, oh, I took 8 caffeine pills, I took 8 fucking whatever. I'm literally just filling time with noise while I do other stuff. Yeah, so like here, on Gambit's sleeve, these aren't referenced creases, then maybe not even good creases, but it's just wrinkles, lines showing that there are creases in this jacket. And I guess maybe here as well on their long material there again. Yeah, rather than being really realistically thought out creases, you just throw in a bunch of shit and it looks like creased up material. Oh, a snot bubble came out. Oh, it's all over my fingers. Oh shit. Really, really cool. Really good. Like nude form, well, mostly nude form, the fringe, like leather, cowboy shit. Adding lines, adding form to the shit, whatevs. The nips. Highlighted nip, a shadowed nip. And more! I forgot there was even more of that shit in there. They're just really, like, cool, stylish drawings. The poses are great. The light and dark contrast is great. I mean, it is almost a masterpiece, like a comic book. Like a black and white inked comic book. It's just almost perfect. This is the using that as like the lines, just it's almost Fibonacci spiral-ish, but like not quite. With the hat in it, just like balance and proportion and stuff, thirds and all that shit. The level of the drink being straight in the glass, and that's the revolver's cool. The white space and the shadows, showing the bricks in the shadows, but not on the. And then we've reached the point where I've run out of shit to say, and all I can really do is look through and go, isn't this good? The brightness here is really, really good. Like, you know, the flash of a gunshot being bright enough to almost erase any detail from the face because it's just so bright with the splatter of blood and debris from the back of the skull. And then that hand and gun being in silhouette, that's really, really effective as a gunshot. That's something we can learn if we ever do comics with guns in. You know. That's really cool. It's like a silhouette, but not, because it's all white instead of black. So that's why I talk about white silhouette. That's really, really good. Almost sculptural with how solid the forms are and like how thick the brush strokes are. The white sort of whoosh, and the cigarette smoke. Almost look like Spider-Man webs, which is quite cool. That's really fucking good. Which I believe, again, is the black ink carving out the white lines. You can see it here especially. It looks like he's taped down part of it here and then like done the lines where necessary, because some of them are bulbous on the end and some of them have a very sort of solid like cut off bit. The teeth are really cool. The eye, the like rim lighting on the front of his face. I mean, Marv's head is just a great shape anyway, with just the fucking brow going straight into the nose like a fucking Neanderthal. The bed sheets, really, really good, effective inking on those. Spider-Man. You may as well fucking be Spider-Man. Imagine if Spider-Man was a big hulking, like, I guess the Spider Hulk has been a thing, so never mind imagine, it's happened already. I was going to say imagine if Spider-Man was a big, strong, muscly guy jumping around, but I guess that's been done with green skin and all. That's cool. Driving a car while holding a guy's face into the concrete. Difficult to show that. I mean, it's done well enough here. The flat angle is quite good because the momentum is just one straight line. So it kind of makes sense to have a relatively flat angle. Relatively, there you go. Didn't intend for that, but it popped up. Get ready to not win a prize. Blam, blam, blam. That's really good. It's almost, because of seeing it in books like this, it's almost obvious to use a sound effect and then draw a picture within the sound effect. But especially depending on the word, it can be very difficult to do, to put across what the image actually is, because it can be so obscured by, you know, the cut out bits of the letters. But doing it in silhouette like that, that's undeniably a gun with a shell coming out. That's undeniably a guy having his fucking head blown off. That's obviously some sort of crucifix type thing. That's cool too. Like, if I'd be happy if I came up with this panel to draw, in, for instance, a Gun Viking comic, and it was fully painted as I do, because it's a really cool looking panel with all the information in this thin strip. The head and the direction he's looking and the hand and the gun. That's really cool. Even better, frankly, in this black and white. Hey, frankly, because it's the Frank that drew the fucking thing. Again, the light. Again, I say again a lot as well. There's no prize for the agains because I say that too much. Basically, I say again so much because I'm constantly repeating myself. Because I'm shit. The lighting here, also with the shadow of the cigarette man. That's of the cigarette man. Brilliant. Perfect. So bright that it erases the detail, and then the shadow of the cigarette hitting his chin. The shadow hitting his chin, not the cigarette, but it's just really, 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 really rather good. And then he gets hit by a fucking car. Christy, that must hurt. That's incredibly difficult to draw a guy flying up in the air with his coat splaying out behind him and his legs, and the maybe easier to do in like a harsh black and white with all the shadow, because you don't have to worry about all the details in the anatomy as such. You just need sort of the shape. But even so, with the creases in the material and all, it works very, very well. It's very good. Here's what I was talking about with creases in material. That's very good. And I love the big chunky sleeve with the little arm coming out with the revolver, and the muzzle flash is really good. Shape of his legs and his boots is really good. That's a really fucking cool page. Just the information you need, sort of where they are and what they're doing. A city, a road, an iguana on the road. Brilliant. Fucking brilliant. Light and dark. Very cool. Cool stuff, man. Yeah, alright. Fucking stop sucking the dick of Sin City for so long. Get rid of the thing. I love Elijah Wood playing this guy, the cannibal, in the film. Because this kind of puts it across, where he has this just non-expressive face the entire time when he's fighting, whatever he's doing. Like, hitting him with his fucking sharp fingernails, picks up a sledgehammer. The entire time he's just got this bland, blank facial expression. As I say, it kind of comes across in this, but I feel it comes across even better in the film because you see more of his face and you see it in movement, in action, while his face remains inactive, just to show what like a cold, like emotionless killer he is. I think it's really, really smart. More really cool body shapes and angles. His arms and his hands being like that is really cool. The shape of the arch of his shoulders, his leg pushing out, kicking Marvin in the throat with this other one bent up. That's a really nice action pose. Quite a really well drawn shoe. Surprising amount of detail considering the comic as a whole. It's obviously a Converse All-Star. This is another great kick. The arm and the back and the leg. That great dynamic pose on the arms, knocking the gun out of his hand, slashing his face. This Marv pose is really good. That's a really cool, like, hurting, trying to defend himself pose. And then clocks him with a fucking sledgehammer. This is great. This is cool. And again, this face, just no expression whatsoever. He gets chucked into this room with all the severed heads and all. He keeps the heads. He eats the rest. He eats people. It's not just the wolf of his, it's him. He eats people. Well, yeah, because he's cool. That's what all cool people do. They eat people. He took my hand. He made me watch. Oh, that's it, isn't it? Oh, Jesus. He made me watch. Cut off her hand and ate it and made her watch. That's fucking gnarly. And he keeps his composure. He's a decent, solid stand-up guy. Keeps his composure, even in the weirdest, sickest, most horrible scenarios. Good on him for that. And then, I think they showed... Did they show him being killed in this issue? Is that in a later one? This is really cool, where they're in this cell and he's trying to smash his way out through this iron door. That pose is genius. The amount of momentum he's putting into charging at that door. He's thrown himself upside down to try to break the door down and then just collapsed on the floor. Really good shadow with the tiles in it, and then the creases around his skin and clothing, the laces on his combat boots, with the light blocking out most of the detail otherwise. The coat creases is really good. More good poses. Solid. Oh, and a little crack. It's taken him a while, but he's getting there. And eventually breaks out. There's a bunch of shit. Some cool drawings, to be expected. She got full of holes. Poor girl. This is a cool fucking pose. And the creases in the trousers really, really add to the stretching of that leg. Punting the fucking cop or whatever that person is. And off the ground, again showing the force and momentum he's using. None of them on the ground, by the way. They're all fucking either jumping or flying or getting hit. That's so good. That's such a cool panel. The light from the muzzle of the Uzi highlighting like all of those parts, and the rest in shadow, but when with the rim lighting, showing off the rest of the form and stuff, the hatchet, and really, really good. The white silhouette, there you go, perfect example. You can see exactly what's happening with, relatively little information. And a line drawing, which is a really sort of almost an odd thing to see in this comic, to see a drawing with so many lines as opposed to thick black, brush strokes or whatever. The rain is really good. This may include some white ink or something. I feel like it should, because it's almost too precise. But it might not. It's difficult to say. And then getting these white lines of the bridge on top of the white lines of the rain feels like it would be impossible to do that in just black ink. So he must have carved some of it out with white. Or maybe he used like masking fluid for some of it, did all the black ink and then rubbed the fluid away. Maybe. May bloody be. Yeah, there's definitely cut-ins with masking and or white ink of some kind. Really, really fucking effective, like heavy rain. Because you can draw rain and just do look, a few lines. Yeah, it's rain. You get it. A really effective thing I learned in some Spider-Man comics. It may have been John Romita Jr. Spider-Man comics, where you draw the splashing of the rain on the surface it's hitting, which really implies a heaviness of the rain, as opposed to just lines falling in front and behind the character, showing that like the almost a haze, which is a thing I noticed in comic books, and then I started noticing it in real life. I noticed it in comics first, by people drawing it, which drew my attention to it. So good. Yeah, you notice the haze of the splashing of the rain. And this is a really, really effective heavy rain. The rain's so heavy you can barely make out the characters, the forms and stuff, but they are there. Like, trying to draw that in any way is difficult, and it's really brilliantly done here. I don't know if they do show the cannibal getting killed. Maybe they did show it and I didn't see it, but he gets his head cut off and his arms and legs, I think, and then gets left as food for the wolf. And the entire time he doesn't make a noise and he keeps that same blank expression. And I think that's a really cool storytelling thing. Bunch more shit. Oh, look, he could have gotten out of he was tied up to a chair and they were like pistol whipping him for a reason. I don't know why exactly, because I don't read, I don't care. And then he gets out of the chair and they're like, what? He could have gotten out the whole time. Why did you sit there and take that beating? And he's like, whatever, I don't give a shit. Suck my dick. That's really cool. I love panels in comics showing just an item. Like if it's an insert panel showing like, and this is the weapon he used, or this is a bottle of poison they drank, or this is a penis. Whatever. I love those panels in comics just because sometimes it's fun to just draw item as opposed to a scene with an item in it highlighted in a certain way because the lamps and the angle of the shadow is all the... Just draw item, and to draw silhouette of item that perfectly describes what item is. Light and dark, perfect contrast shadow there. Oh, he's got a hacksaw. He might be heading off to... Yeah, this is where he kills the cannibal, I think. Got his kit together. Drawing items in the panels. It's really, really cool. Rubber tubing, gas, saw, gloves, cuffs, razor wire, hatchet, Gladys, and my mitts. Yeah, I think he's going back to track down and kill the cannibal. Sets up razor wire traps and or something. Uses gas to set the guy's house ablaze. He jumps out, attacks him. Oh, he sees the razor wire and jumps over it, I think. Has his fight, keeping that expression the whole time. Some more cool dynamic poses. More Spider-Man poses. That's quite a long fight scene. I mean, relatively long fight scene. Over a good few pages. It would be easy to like chop it down to 1 or 2 pages, just show the basics, you know, this happened, and then the kill, which is what I do when I try to cram, you know, fucking pages and pages of stuff into one page for gun. Anyway, finally gets a good hit on him. Oh, and she's about to shoot him, and he slaps the fuck out of her. No, you are not fucking shooting this guy. Saws his arms and leg off. Oh, he doesn't cut his head off. Just his arms and legs. And leaves him for the wolf to eat. So there he is, no arms and no legs. Oh, and he ties them off so he doesn't bleed out. because he wants him to stay alive while the wolf eats him. And he doesn't scream the whole time. And then he cuts his head off, I guess. He never screams. He doesn't scream, not even at the end, not even when the mutt's had his fill and Kevin's guts are lying all over the place, and somehow the bastard is still alive, still staring at me. Not even when I grab the saw and finish the job. He never screams after he cuts his head off. Gnarly, gnarly drawing. Really, really cool. Like that a lot. Yeah, that's cool. Ooh wee! Looking at the amount of time I've been recording so far, this might be an extra long episode, folky wokes, which is the posh way of saying folks, by the way, because I'm posh, I'm rich, I've got lots of money, I was well educated, which is why I'm so good at words, not maths, or telling the time, or holding in my shits, and then emptying my bowels inappropriately when it's not good to do so. But yeah, this might be a long one because I've still got a whole bunch more to say about certain things with regards to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre disaster. See how I've gotten all Sin City and I'm just using splotches of ink now to describe certain aspects of Leatherface's Leatherface. I've wanted to draw this kind of panel for quite some time, of him grabbing the girl and her being all like, oh my god, and I figure it now seemed like a sensible time to do so. These were other Leatherface doodles which were just shit. I did Leatherface holding a chainsaw like down by like past his crotch, and I realised I did a Pigsy drawing a little while ago, and it was almost the exact same pose. So, which I know I've commented on the fact that I do that quite often. I have a handful of poses I use, and I use them again and again and again. So, one of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, I'll be perfectly honest, there was one film I didn't watch all of. I made it not even halfway through. I can't remember which one it is, but it starts out as like a teen romance comedy film where like teens are going to the prom and it's all like, oh my god, I can't believe you're here with Kenny. I was supposed to go with Johnny, but I'm here with Kenny. Oh my god, Stephanie, can't believe I said that. And it's just so irritating to try to watch, especially if you sit down to watch a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film and that's what comes on. It's just like, ugh, just fucking go away. There's another one where they obviously got for the film specifically some of the most attractive like young actors and actresses they can. I can't remember the names of any of them, but there's some obviously like attractive male and female actors and actresses as the teens that happen upon the fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre cannibal family. And it's just so fucking annoying. It's almost nice because you get to watch these horrifically attractive people die in various ways. But it's just irritating seeing those people in what's supposed to be like a gritty, grimy horror film. So there's plenty of that in the franchise, so that can all fuck off because it's all shit. In one of those, there is a very attractive main actress. The premise of that film is the girl, the very attractive young actress, is a descendant of the family. Somewhere along, I think her like aunt or something was like Leatherface's mum. So they're related, and she's the last living relative. So then she inherits that old woman's house because she dies, and then she goes to the house, and they're gonna have a funeral for her and bury her in the yard in this little cemetery plot that's obviously there to bury family members in or whatever. But what's in the basement of the house? Leatherface. He's living in the basement of the house. Of course. He comes out, kills a bunch of people. So somewhere along the way, he realizes, oh, wait, you're not just some random person. You're family. I won't kill you. I'll protect you. And that's ultimately what happens is Leatherface kills a bunch of people and then protects the girl and a bunch of other stuff. And I think it's this same film that before he realizes it's family, his cousin or whatever, there's a scene where it may be a different film, but I think it's this film and I think it's this actress and this family situation. When they first encounter Leatherface, they're running away from him. She's running away specifically from Leatherface. As far as you can tell from the film and how they've shot it, how they've set it up, he can see her when she's running away. She runs into the small cemetery plot. Again, Leatherface not far behind. Jumps into an open grave, obviously there to bury the old fucking woman who died, which has an open casket in it, which is just weird because that doesn't happen. You put the body in the casket and then lower it into the... You don't dig the grave, then put the casket in, and then put the body in. That's not because you're not going to just drop the dead body into the casket in the hole in the ground. You put them in the casket in a nice, somber, respectful way, and then lower it in. But there's an open grave with a casket inside, which is just silly. It's all silly from start to finish. But that's particularly like, what? Why is that? So she hides, knowing Leatherface is right behind her, into this cemetery plot, which has like a small white picket fence around it. So it's not like she's hiding behind a huge fence or anything. Into the hole, into the casket, closes the casket on herself, which is a wooden box. She's running away from a man wielding a chainsaw and hides in a hole in the ground in a wooden box, which the guy with the chainsaw has clearly seen happen. There couldn't be a more stupid fucking place to try to escape from a chainsaw wielding maniac than a wooden box in a hole in the ground. And that's a scene in the movie, which is fucking ridiculous. And then I think there's a scene with like a I guess it's like an abattoir or something, and there's this giant crushing, like one of those crushers with like a whirling blade system that you throw shit into like a funnel, and it crushes it up. And I think it's like a meat produce plant or something, like an abattoir, a slaughterhouse or whatever. And so there's a standoff where Leatherface is in there, and then like you're aware that big meat crushing machine is there the whole time, and you're like, oops, someone's going in there. And then I think they managed to get like a chain around Leatherface's neck or something and throw one end of the chain into the crusher, and it starts slowly dragging Leatherface towards the crusher. And I think then the girl, his cousin, saves him. She saves the killer, Leatherface, and then some other guy gets thrown into the crusher, and bad CGI gore effects ensue. Ultimately, that film ends with Leatherface still living in the basement, and then there's a big like metal shutter door to keep him contained in his little basement room or whatever. And then she, the cousin, the inheritor of the estate, takes down a tray of food and leaves it outside his door. She's their family now. She's letting him live there. She's taking care of him. Oh my God. And that's basically the end of the film. And it's like, really? That's the... I mean, as far as like, a twist kind of, almost twist ending to that sort of film goes, it's not the worst, but it's just so like... almost too obvious. Like, of course that's where it's going. Of course that's what they did with it. Why would you do anything good? Oh, she's protecting him because he's family. But then again, the Saw is family. It's all about family. It's like fucking the Fast and Furious franchise. It's all about family. That's what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie franchise is. It's all about family. There's a couple of good points during the franchise, though. But it's like minor good points within a whole Bevy. Is that a word? Let me Google the word bevy, because I feel like that's a word that means a lot of something. But I might be completely wrong. I don't want to search images of bevy. Evidently, that's a brand of something. An alcoholic drink. Oh, then what am I thinking of? A bevy of something. A bevy of... I might be thinking of a completely different word. Oh, is it with one V? A bevy... Okay, bevy, B-E-V. I searched it with two V's, and that's a drink apparently. Bevy with one V, a large group of people or things of a particular kind. It's exactly the word I thought it was. In amongst the bevy of shit that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie franchise, there are a couple of good moments within individual films that don't necessarily make the entire thing worth watching, but they are at least a couple of good points you can pull out of this bevy of shit. One of those I can't remember at all because it was ruined. I can't remember which film it is, but in one of those films it starts out really good because the movie starts... Oh shit, it might be the same one with the girl who inherits the house. Because the film starts almost right after the original movie. So if you take the original movie, the girl escapes, she runs off, evidently phones the police or lets the police know that something's happening at this house. And the house, it's done really well. The house, they've made the entire scene perfectly, recreated it from the original. The house looks the same. There's a jacket hanging over like the banister on the porch, where one of the guys, maybe the first guy who goes in, leaves his jacket there, and then the second guy who goes in the original again, sees the guy's jacket and goes, hey, that's my friend's jacket, he must be in this house. Goes into the house, oh, they die. That jacket in this newer film, recreating the part of the original, they've even got that jacket on the porch. It's like... There's like a swing or something, a seat swing in the garden or something, I think. That's there, and it looks so good, like so true to the original. Then the police show up, and they've got like a megaphone outside the house, and evidently they know this family's been up to some shit. And they're like, okay, we've had enough of you and your fucking shit. Come out of that house. We know you're in there. And then the family has a bunch more family come over with guns, and there's a shootout with the police, and a bunch of shit happens. Someone in that house has a baby that like they're like, oh no, protect the baby. They get the baby out of the house, but then some shithead comes along, kills like whoever's protecting the mum or whoever is protecting the baby, and takes the baby away, but kills the rest of the family. Then they bring the baby up, and I think that baby is the girl who inherits the house and the whole thing. So that start, I was all in watching that start of that film. I was like, shit, okay, they're recreating the original. They're taking it from the original finishes. This film starts. That's really good, and it looks good. It's well done. But then that scene, the way that scene progresses is a bit much, and it gets a little bit like, And then the film happens, which I believe is that film where the girl inherits the thing, and then it's all just shit and garbage and downhill from there, which is kind of sad, kind of irritating, but kind of expected, I suppose. But that's one good point of one film, which is they did sort of recreate some of the feel of the original there, for whatever that's worth, which isn't much. Now, there's another one. I think there's the film called... It's just called Leatherface, I believe. Which doesn't... It's not necessarily Leatherface's origin story, but it gives some background to the character's, like, childhood. So the whole movie... Well, no, not the whole movie. The start of the movie is set in an insane asylum. And there's a big, dumb, I think he's mute or mostly mute, like galumphing, chunky, fat guy with long, scraggly hair. And they never know his real name. I think they call him a few different names that like sound like insults for a fat person. So they keep calling him stuff like that. And you have every possible reason to believe That's Leatherface as a youngster, a teenager, maybe like 18, 19, early 20s, in this insane asylum. And it shows, he's bullied, he's put down, people pick on him. But there's this, like well-built, square-jawed, young, handsome guy also in there who's like a schizophrenic or whatever, who protects him. He stands up for him and he beats up people who try to get at this guy who's obviously Leatherface in the asylum. Then a bunch of shit happens. They break out of the asylum, and then there's these two fucking psychopaths, a guy and a girl. At one point, they fuck with a dead body. Like, they fuck next to a dead body and then include the dead body. They like suck on it, and so it was weird. So the two psychopaths, a guy and a girl, who are boyfriend girlfriend in the asylum, escape and kind of take Leatherface, the chunky guy, and the square-jawed handsome guy hostage with them. So they all escape together with a nurse that they also take hostage, who kind of has a thing for the square-jawed handsome guy. It's a little bit whatever. But then they get out of the asylum. They're escaping from the police. They get new clothes. They find a trailer. They hide in the trailer. In the trailer, there's a dead body. Whoever owned the trailer just died in there. The guy and the girl, psychopath, they fuck on the bed with the dead body on it, and they do a whole thing. As a whole bunch of shit happens. And the square jaw guy is really protective of the chunky, scraggly-haired Leatherface guy. Because, he's a big dumb galoot, and he's like, no, leave him alone, he's my friend, whatever. Whilst also trying to protect the nurse, because he wants to bang her, I guess. But he's really decent. He wants to bang her, but he doesn't rape her. He's really decent. He's crazy and he's psychopathic, whatever. But he's a really decent guy who just wants to do the right thing. It's just sort of silly, but it's whatever. And this, as a film, is really, really cool. But there's this whole thing with Leatherface's mum trying to get him out of the place and not being allowed to see him. And I think she's the one who damages an alarm system or something, which opens the gates, which lets everyone out of the asylum. But it's a cool escaping from an asylum film following this little group of people. The thing that ruins it is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre side of it. If you forget that it's got anything to do with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's actually quite a good kids escaping from an asylum kind of movie. But it's the mum who wants her cannibal son released from this thing. And then it's what happens after that, which really, really ruins it for me. Which is, at some point, the police or rangers or whatever who are after the escaped inmates track them down. I think shots are fired and whatever. And the big, chunky Leatherface guy gets shot and he gets killed and he's dead. But he can't be dead because he's Leatherface and he's so young, and Leatherface still has to grow up into an 80-year-old man to be in a shit film in 2022 on Netflix. But he gets shot and he dies. He bleeds out. And the guy with the square jaw is crying. He's like, no, I can't believe I wasn't able to protect him. And then they escape just about. They're in a car driving away. Shots are fired from the police. The square jaw guy gets a bullet through the face, through his cheek, and it fucks his face up. What you find out, the square jaw guy, the handsome, slim, well-built, smooth talking, helpful, square jaw, nice, handsome guy, that's actually Leatherface. The guy you had every reason to believe would be Leatherface wasn't actually Leatherface. Leatherface, the big, chunky, scraggly-haired, mute, learning disability guy, that is Leatherface, that this character in this film had every single attribute of, wasn't actually the character you thought it would be, even though the movie makers purposely made that character look exactly like you think Leatherface would be, younger. Instead, it's this slim, really streetwise, witty, attractive, square-jawed, well-built guy is what becomes Leatherface. Because he's been shot in the face. He finally makes it home with his family. He kills a person and they eat him, and it's a whole thing. And then his mum built him this like face harness to hold his face together after he got shot through the cheek, and they like sew him up, and so his face is all fucked up, and that's why he wears the mask, because his face got fucked up. And then evidently somewhere along the way he puts on loads of weight, he loses his sense of intelligence and communication, and becomes what Leatherface is, which doesn't make any fucking sense. It's so infuriating. And I've seen several like pieces of media that do this, that trick you into thinking one character is who they are, but then goes, oh, you thought, but actually it's this completely separate character that has no physical or other kind of relation to the character it's supposed to be. It's so infuriating because it's not like a clever twist. It's just like, telling you this is clearly Leatherface as a youngster, and this is, him trying to escape from the asylum with the help of his friends. And so you buy into it, and you go, oh, okay, that's Leatherface, and then they don't twist it. They just take it away and go, nope, that's not actually Leatherface. This guy's actually Leatherface, and you go, oh, okay, but I thought that was Leatherface because you gave us every single reason to believe this character was Leatherface. And they say, nope. And you say, oh, but then how does this guy become Leatherface? Oh, just does. Shot in the face and, oh, no, my face is fucked up. I've got to wear a mask now. But it doesn't make sense. And that is largely like kind of my feelings on a lot of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. A lot of it's just bad filmmaking, bad choices, bad ideas about what to put in the films, and some of it is bad stuff, like just bad decisions on like direction of the film and the characters and stuff that don't make sense. It just doesn't fucking make sense. I can't sadly offer like a solution to that. I can't say, see, what they should have done was this and this. Or what they should have done was have like a bunch of, less intelligent people in this asylum, all a bit dumpy, all a bit, maybe a couple of kids that are mute, they've got scraggly hair, they're a bit overweight and not too bright. And then gradually over time, one of them, they kill people together, but then one of them starts eating part of them, and you're like, hey, what are you doing? Stop eating that. And you realise he's got cannibalistic tendencies because of how he was brought up. And then he starts killing more people on his own outside of this group. And then he becomes what you know to be Leatherface out of this amorphous group of weird individuals. He then becomes Leatherface. If I was going, I say I can't come up with a solution. I just did. There you go. If you were going to have the setting of being in the asylum and then seeing a person eventually become Leatherface, that would be maybe a better way to do it. However, what you should do is not make the film at all. But if you're going to make a film, he was a kid brought up in a terrible, terrible family of killers and cannibals, and he grew up to be a killer and a cannibal. There's really not much more to it than that, which is why you don't need to make a fucking an origin story for Leatherface, because all of Leatherface's origins are right there on the screen in the original film. He's brought up in this family of people that kill and eat other people, and he's a product of that and carries on those fucking traditions and stuff. He's not some, otherworldly entity with the power of eternal life and eternal strength and a magic chainsaw that never runs out of gas and never has a dull blade that can cut through meat like it's butter anytime, anywhere. He's just some guy in a really shitty family. And he may be even a shit person. I'm not saying he's a victim of his upbringing, and he could have gone on to great things had he not been born into that life, because maybe he's just a piece of shit and he hates people and kills them and eats them. But you don't need an origin story for a character like Leatherface. It almost ruins the character of Leatherface if you start trying to explain, why he is the way he is. It's like, well, it ruins the story and the idea of the whole thing of just being this sick, sadistic cannibal family. Oh no, because he was in an asylum and then he got shot by the police and then fucked his face up and then he went back to his family and he could have been so smart and handsome, but no, he didn't. Because of the situation. No, he was just a big dummy and he kills and eats people. Like your mum. I mean, not that your mum kills and eats people necessarily, but your mum's a big stupid dummy who, your mum's fat and stupid and I hate her, but I still had sex with her because I'm desperate. And that's the end of today's episode.